Hey, I'm Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and in today's video, I'm going to try to spare you from some of the mistakes I made and give some advice that I wish I would have received when I started out as a card counter. Hey guys, I'm Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I started out as a card counter over 18 years ago. And I started out with a small bankroll, was able to grow it. During my professional career, I averaged about $400 an hour, winning over $600,000 during the couple of years that I was playing. And then I went on to run teams. Our teams won close to $4 million over my involvement with them. And for over a decade, I've been running Blackjack Apprenticeship to teach other people to do what myself and my teams did. And look, when you've played, when you've run teams and been involved as long as I have, you've made a lot of mistakes and you think about the things that you wish you could do over. So I'm gonna share that with you, starting with number 6. The first thing I wish I would have known when I started out is that a 99% card counter is not a winning card counter. Like I said, I probably made every mistake in the book, one of which was playing before I could play perfectly. Secondly, was massively overbetting my bankroll. I mean, it's a miracle I didn't go bust. It's simply because I was able to team up with others very quickly to have a larger bankroll than I initially started with, because like I said, I was massively overbetting my bankroll. I also didn't understand how rules, deck penetration, and rounds per hour affected things as a card counter, so I played all casinos, all tables the same way, regardless of all sorts of things, only to find out later some of the tables I was playing were not even a winning game with my bankroll and bet spread. And this is kind of an embarrassing story, but when I first started, I read a book by Stanford Wong, and in it he talked about that with the dealer, you could read their face when they had to peek at the bottom card. Well, guess what? The casinos I was playing had these little prism systems, so the dealers weren't even checking the cards, but I was trying to read the dealer's face to see if they had a 10 or an ace underneath. But of all those mistakes, the one that kills me the most was all the hundreds of hours I spent at the tables playing without a perfect game. I mean, I literally lost my first couple hundred hours, and it was only when I convinced my first teammate, Ben, to test me out that I realized I didn't have a perfect game and I was just treading water at best at the casinos. When I found those mistakes, I was able to fix them, and the rest is I went on, like I said, to win over $600,000 over the next 1,500 hours basically of my playing career before I transitioned into running teams. But don't be like me. Don't go to the casinos before your game is perfect. By playing before you're perfect, you are risking your bankroll, wasting time when you could be perfecting your game, generating positive EV, and giving yourself the best start you need as a card counter. And it's not just me. This is probably the most common mistake I see with new card counters, is that they go to the casinos before they're ready. But then you're just risking your bankroll and wasting your time when you could be perfecting your game, so you generate a positive EV game at the casinos and have the best chance as you start out as a card counter. The number 5 thing I wish I would have known before starting out as a card counter is knowing how to maximize EV. Like I said before, I didn't really understand how all the different variables, rules, deck penetration, rounds per hour affect EV. And so when I got some betting software, I realized some of the games I was playing were break even at best. Like I was gambling at the casino trying to count cards, but the rules, the deck penetration, something made them not even worth playing, while other games were super valuable and I didn't realize there was such a difference. As I got to understand the betting software and learning from other experts, I understood how the different variables actually work together to increase your EV. And it's kind of like with rounds per hour, the right rules, deck penetration, you put those together and it's kind of like getting the superstar in Mario Kart or Mario Brothers, where you're actually going faster, you're nearly invincible as far as your risk of ruin goes down, and you're gonna generate far more EV at the tables with all the right criteria. What kills me about this is that as I look back at my career, if I would have known this stuff sooner, I would have generated far more EV, and my $600,000 career profits might have been $800,000, maybe $1 million in that same span when I was playing professionally. The number 4 thing I wish I would have known when I started out is that variance is a 4-letter word. When I started out at card counting, I had no idea how variance worked. I'd go out and I'd have a great winning day and I'd think, oh, this card counting thing is so easy. I'd have a terrible losing day and I'd think, oh, I should have just not gone to the casinos today. I remember the first trip I went on with 2 teammates. We drove a full day somewhere, we played for an entire day, drove back, and at the end of all of it, we broke even. And I thought, this is so dumb, we broke even. Well, that's all part of the variance of the game. You have winning days, losing days, break-even days. What you need to focus on is generating EV and being able to withstand the variance. Over my playing career, I've had 2 streaks of over 200 hours without a new all-time high. That means 200 hours of not winning. That is miserable, but now I understand, 1, that is part of the game, but 2, how to minimize that. Simply by avoiding poor deck penetration, poor rules, avoiding those really negative counts and small bet spreads. If you avoid those things, you will get through the variance a lot faster. So if you're new to card counting, first off, be aware of what you're getting yourself into. This game, it takes hundreds and hundreds of hours for any sort of guarantee that the math is going to work out. Secondly, arm yourself best to counteract the variance monster by understanding what things increase variance as a card counter and what things will decrease it. The number 3 thing I wish I would have known is that as a card counter, as a winning player, you are likely going to be databased, but don't let it come from your own stupidity. Like I've said before, casinos do not want winning players. If they figure out that you are playing with the advantage, they may ask you to leave and never come back, and they may put you in a database of known advantage players. I got entered into a database very early into my career, less than a year into it, and it was total stupidity on my part. I knew that I was getting backed off from a casino, and at the cashier's cage when they said they needed to see ID, rather than just leaving, I gave them my ID. They took pictures of it, the rest is history. So the first thing you need to consider is determine how important it is to you to protect your name. If you want to protect your name, then don't be like me and just refuse giving ID at the casino. You have a right to not give ID, you have to leave, but hey, when they say, we need your ID, you can just leave. If you're young looking like I was, and you have to kind of balance that. But especially when you're getting backed off, there's no reason to ever just hand them your ID. They're saying they don't want you to play there. Great, just leave. You can always come back another time and cash out your chips. It's almost every week that I talk to someone, they're a newer card counter, and they say, Colin, I played at a casino, I got backed off, they asked for my ID, I gave it to them, and now what do? And I say, well, it's a little late. You should have just left when they backed you off. You didn't need to give them ID, but learn from our mistakes and be smarter. Otherwise, if you want to play with ID, it's okay. I've won most of the money I've won since being in databases. Probably over 500,000 of my profits came after being put in databases, so don't let that scare you. The number 2 thing I wish I would have known is that there is more than one way to skin a casino. Richard Munchkin talks about how card counters tend to have this tunnel vision where they just walk straight to the blackjack table without ever looking around at anything else. And I was the worst culprit of this. I overlooked all sorts of AP opportunities, from bonuses with edges right off the top to other AP plays. And if I had to do over, I would have continued to learn more, read more books, networked with people more knowledgeable, and added more tools to my tool belt. In any profession, the people that are the most successful are the ones that continue to learn, continue to refine their skills, add to it, and learn from others. I think advantage play tends to attract kind of a lone wolf type at times, but in my 18 years of being around advantage players, the ones that I know that have had the most success are well-rounded, well-networked, continual learners. And the number 1 thing I wish I would have known before I got started as an advantage player is how advantage play fits into the bigger picture. Look, I honestly don't care if you become an advantage player or not, but if you do, I hope you figure out if and how it fits into those larger life goals that you have. Advantage play is not for everyone, and my honest advice is to figure out if it's a good fit for you, and if it is, how. There are probably 1,000 YouTube comments that say something like, hey, if you're so great at card counting, why aren't you just doing that? Or you won 600,000 over 18 years, that's not much more than minimum wage. And the reality is, I wasn't playing for the last 18 years. I played for a couple of years. Like I said, I averaged about $400 an hour, but then it started to not feel very fun anymore. And I had this opportunity to run this team, train other people, and send them out, and it was so much fun for that season. I did that for 5 or 6 years, and then that started to feel like a grind, and Blackjack Apprenticeship felt like new uncharted territory for me. It's kind of my personality. I get tired of things once I feel like I've figured them out. On top of that, I remember doing blackjack trips with my wife and 4 kids, and we'd be driving in our minivan, and I'd be playing high stakes blackjack up and down the coast and thinking, okay, this is working, but this isn't really my goal. I have no regrets for shifting my focus to Blackjack Apprenticeship because it's a better fit for me and my family. Whether that makes me a poser or not, you can decide, but here's my advice for you. Figure out if advantage play fits for you, if so, how, And what are those bigger goals that it's going to help you reach and how it's going to serve those goals? If it's not serving those goals, find a better way to reach those larger goals in your life. I hope that helps you out. If you enjoyed it, you can check out our video 5 regrets from my card counting career, or check out blackjackapprenticeship.com.